Welcome to the fourth and final section of the ESTeem Networking Suite software training series, where we're going to cover some more of the advanced features of the software and actually how to utilize some of these features to benefit you. In the last video, we covered how to program the Horizon 900 MHz network that we see shown here on the board. In this particular video, what we're going to take a look at is some of the items that may have a few questions about, and the first thing we want to do is actually go through the menuing system. The first thing we'll take a look at is File. Under File, what we can do is we can open a previously saved network. We can save the network that we currently have here to open up at a later time. We can close this window by pressing Exit Network, or we can close the entire application by pressing Exit Application. Under Edit, we have several choices available to us. We can edit the selected item. So in this particular case, the master site is selected. If we hit Edit Selected Item, it'll bring up the editing system, which we'll show here in a minute. We can delete a selected item. We can have the radio try to be automatically placed within the network. If you have a very large network or you've discovered a radio network, what this auto placing will do is it will try to put it in the most logical order. You can undo or redo any particular change that you've made to it. If you know a radio serial number or MAC address, you can try to find it within the network to help locate some of the some of the radios within a larger network. We can find the next. We can basically go to a home location, which is the center of the network that we've created. We can create a snapshot, which is nothing more than a picture of the network as a whole, which is a nice finish to the network. It'll save it in a PNG format. We can also select all the radios within a system. We would do that if we're going to program or download the configuration to all the radios at the same time. Let me show you what that looks like. So if we hit Select All Radios, we'll notice in here that each of the radios then will be selected. If we look under Radio, we have several options available to us here. Discover will basically rediscover the radio network to find out if any changes have been made. We've gone through the last two in the last video where we're adding a new radio or adding in a dummy radio, but we also can get in and change the global networking settings, things such as the SSID, bandwidth, or channel. Under the same system, we can edit the radio settings, which allows us to go in much in the same way that edits the selected item. We can change a serial number if we are changing the radio at a particular location. We can change the serial number to that location, and it will automatically update all the radios in and around it. We can set all the radios to factory default or specific radios to factory default. We can get radio settings out of one particular radio or a group of those radios. And again, we can send those to a radio. And as we covered in a previous video, we can actually update the firmware to either a single or all the radios into a system. Under Networks, as you see listed here, under the Discover on the first video that we did last, we actually have 3 different networks connected to our system. You can basically shift between each of those networks by going to Network. Finally, one very helpful menu item is going to be the Help command. The legend was one of the most powerful features because it's going to give you an idea of what all the colored boxes mean and how what that is telling us within the system. Okay? And that will cover everything within the menuing. The next feature we'll take a look at is actually the radio information itself. Let's say we wanted to actually look at more details on the master site. What we can actually do is if we hover over that radio, we're going to get a quick summary by the serial number, model, the mode of operation, the radio ID that we've entered, SSID, everything there, a lot of information for the radio. If we need to change that or edit these radio settings, it's very simple. We can either select it here, go up under Edit, Edit Selected Item, or we can double click on it. Either one of them will bring up the Edit Radio Settings page. From here, we can change all the parameters in that radio in much the same way we can do through the web interface. For example, if we hit Next, we can change the mode of operation from a bridge to, say, a router or one of the station modes. We can change the distance, change the radio ID name. We can go in and change whether or not we are going to be running DHCP service and the IP addresses. Depending upon the mode of operation, say for example if it's in a router mode, we will have both an Ethernet and a wireless IP address available to us. In a large mesh network, we can also define in there which site is actually going to be the root bridge. We'll cover that in a future video. If we select Next, we can select the level of encryption and whether there's some more key elements to it, whether or not we're going to be using protected management frames or we want to hide the beacon SSID. And it also gives us the ability to change the passphrase all on one screen. We can go in and set what we call an access control list, where we can deny or allow specific radios within the network based upon their MAC ID. And then finally, what we see here is this is actually the peer configuration table within the radio. It's telling us who that radio, the master radio, is communicating with directly. And if we look at the page, we see here that the master is actually communicating with remote 1, remote 2, and the repeater directly, which corresponds with what we see here listed. The last few features of the software we'll take a look at are the ability to select any radio within the system and open it directly from the software package itself and open it within a web browser. We can simply do a right mouse click, run it down, press it to where it says open in browser. What this will do is this will open up your default web browser and enter in the IP address for this radio. There are a few elements such as wireless status, computer status, that are only available within the web interface of the radio itself. The last and final thing we want to take a look at is the ability to actually move radios between networks. If we had multiple 900 megahertz networks connected into a single switch or into a single computer, what we can do is if we want to move, say, remote number 4's radio into the new network, all you need to do is simply do a right mouse click, push the button that says Send To, and if we had multiple networks available to it, we select the opposite network and it would remove it from our network we have listed here into the new network. That concludes our information on the features of the ESTeem Networking Suite software. We hope you have found this series informative. Everything from part 1 in the installation, part 2 as far as an overview, 3 covered the primary programming, and this a video that covered some of the key features of the application. If you have any questions, of course, you can reach out to us from the web interface or to our support line. We hope you have found this entertaining and informative, and please let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.